This rogue build is the most fun I have had playing Diablo 4. It's also extremely powerful. Like, I just beat a tier 81 nightmare dungeon with it.
Yes.
We're using all 3 imbuement skills because of this unique amulet that applies all of these imbue skills to our ultimate, Rain of Arrows. This not only does an insane amount of AoE damage, but it knocks down and freezes everything it hits. And thanks to preparation, it resets all of our other cooldowns. And even though our ultimate has a 50-second cooldown, every 4th rapid fire we shoot lowers our ulti cooldown by 4 seconds, allowing us to perfectly rotate through all of our skills non-stop. You might be wondering, how can I use nothing but a core skill and maintain my resources? Well, rapid fire for the rogue is a unique spender in the sense that it can be completely self-sustained without the need for a basic skill, or even resource rings. This gives us room to use poison trap, which serves multiple purposes, like additional CC with a knockdown, more crit chance and damage reduction through our passives, and best of all, 30% of the time it resets all of our imbue skill cooldowns. As you can probably tell, pretty much all of our attacks end up being imbued, making us very strong. What makes this build so fun to me is the strategic decision making of which imbue to use first for each scenario. For example, if I enter a room with an elite, I always want to use cold imbue first to freeze it, versus a group of smaller mobs I then want to use shadow imbue for the AoE to blow them all up fast. And then of course for bosses I want to use the poison imbue for that single target damage. And because we have so much crowd control, we can essentially perma-stun any elites by chaining our cold imbues together with our trap, plus resetting those same cooldowns with our ulti. It's awesome and allows for pushing really high tier nightmare dungeons. The problem with higher tier difficulty monsters is that they will kill you in 1 or 2 hits probably. So how do we get tanky and survive with this build? Well, this build is not only using 6 skills, we're actually using 7 because we're using 2 defensive aspects that generate Dark Shroud shadows around us for a total of 60% damage reduction. For those of you who don't know, each shadow gives me 12% DR, and each time I get hit, I lose one of those shadows. But because our goal is to never get hit or even be close to enemies, this works wonders as we can maintain the maximum 5 shadows all the time. A lot of people have said that there's no way to be ranged in this game, but oh, there is. And this build is amazing at it, which is key to our survival. Whenever we can keep our distance, it's basically impossible to die. So we do a lot of kiting backwards. But then there's elites with the suppressor effect, like the protective bubble around them that prevent all ranged projectiles to hit them. This can be a huge problem, but how we get around this is we man up and take the fight inside the bubble. With perma-freeze and cooldown resets, we can safely take out the elite, and pretty much the same strategy works for taking out those pesky champions with auras in the backline. Here are the skills I'm using. Obviously, I'm maxing Rapid Fire as it's our core skill and main damage dealer outside the ultimate. We've got no agility skills, and we have 3 sneaky points towards the Dark Shroud, even though it's not even on our skill bar. We're putting just 1 point in each imbue, simply because we don't have enough points. And then I've got pretty much all defensive passives just to survive. And then we finish the skill tree off with Rain of Arrows and, of course, Precision. But in Diablo 4, most of our power comes from the Paragon Board, and I'm using the Ranger Glyph to start off. Heading into the Eldritch Bounty Board, I'm using the Frost Feeder Glyph for a ridiculous amount of damage to chilled enemies. My third board is Exploit Weakness, where I have the Infusion Glyph, which is a no-brainer for this build, adding both imbue damage and imbue cooldown reduction. Moving on to the Cunning Stratagem board and Control Glyph. I swap this glyph for Kenny sometimes too. And our fifth board is No Witness with the best glyph in the game, Exploit. And to finish off in the Tricks of the Trade board, I've got Efficacy for 20% imbue potency. I've linked this build in the description below along with my Twitch stream if you want to watch me play the build live and push some high tier nightmare dungeons.